What if the most powerful part of your presentation isn't what you say, but what your audience says? See, on today's show, we explore facilitation skills to transform presentations from one-way talks into meaningful, memorable conversations. And we got a master facilitator and an emotional intelligence expert who helps presenters create engagement between people, not just slides. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Karen Bowen, is the founder of KMH Strategy and co-owner of EQ Development Group. Karen's a master trainer in emotional intelligence and resilience, and she's known for a practical, engaging approach to training. I'm going to let her take it from here because she'll tell you her journey and about herself better than I will. So, Karen, the floor is yours. Just kind of tell us how we got here.
You know, I get asked this question often, and my standard response is, where I landed today found me. I didn't find it. So throughout the years, I built my practice in leadership development training and then obviously branched into areas of specialization such as emotional intelligence and strategy and facilitation. And honestly, I tried to leave quite a few times along the way, and somehow I landed back in this area of facilitation, emotional intelligence, and just being a support and coach and guide for various boards and leadership teams and organizational teams across kind of all industries. So I don't know that I carved the path. I think I followed my instincts. I listened when I had whispers of where I should be, and it found me.
Yeah. I actually have used that phrase, a book finds you. Because we don't find a book, it tends to find us. I used it so often that the Maryland Writers Association here actually created a show called A Book Finds You,
I love that.
which I do host, by the way. But it's a little sideshow. But it's because my favorite question, and it happens to be with careers and so many things, is maybe when we get out of school we go finding a job or something, but eventually the career kind of finds us. So I'm glad you used that phrase. We're taught that great presentations, at least. And then I'm a guy who teaches it sometimes. We focus so strong on delivery. Where do we go wrong in overlooking facilitation as a core skill?
Yeah, good question. I think honestly, when we have more focus on us instead of our audience per se, or the people that we're sitting in the room with or standing in front of, that's where I think it can go sideways, is that if you just relax, prep well, which I know we'll talk about, and similar to the pathfinding me, be prepared to follow your audience instead of having them follow you.
Yeah, it's funny, but in sales, which is my core topic of what I tend to deliver on when I'm not talking to presenters, we always believe that the more the client talks, the more they like you. And so why would that be any different than when we have a presentation that the more the audience is talking, the more they're going to enjoy the presenter? But it's that instinct versus logic. That's so logical, but it's not as instinctive as I'd like it to be. So we got to climb into it. You know what? And I think, and then I want your take on this, I think it scares people a little bit because there's so much improv that goes on in facilitation. Look, I hate the word script, but I've got an agenda. I'm following a PowerPoint. I'm coming down the line here. I know whether I'm 3 minutes fast or 3 minutes slow. But boy, we loosen the reins on that horse when we go and say, all right, your turn. Let's see where this goes. So you think that's what's doing it? It's just the unknown?
Yeah, the unknown and comfort with ambiguity, honestly, and trusting your instincts. So, often I'm asked, can you do a keynote presentation for us for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, your standard keynote presenter type format? And while I do those, often either I turn them down or I say, heads up, it's going to be interactive. I actually find it more stressful to have to stick to a script than to just lean in, identify the points that would be valuable for my audience. Of course, you need to bring content and theories and ideas and hypotheses that will be engaging. Other than that, I want to hear them and what's going to best serve them and be able to respond to that, not follow the script of, at 10:12 I was supposed to be at this topic and now I'm not here anymore.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't work that way in the
No.
presentation world. I've actually equated it to a hot air balloon. I don't know if you've ever ridden in one, but it never stays level. Let's say we're flying at 3,000 feet. It's actually going to go above 3,000. When we take the heat off, it's still going on. It still goes up, and then it starts working its way down, and it goes below 3,000. Then we put some heat on it. Still starts dropping, but then and I think it's like an S. It just keeps going. I
Mhm.
think when we time a presentation, we should have a general idea of where we are,
Yep.
and we put a little heat in there. Meaning we might have to slow it down a little bit, or we let some heat out and we pick up the pace and drop that exercise that was optional. But it's just never a perfect science, is it?
No, and in fact, it's funny because when I'm talking to other facilitators or presenters or whatever, and what makes it effective, not to misunderstand me, I will prep. I can hand you my script for any given engagement down to the minute.
Hmm.
And in my mind, I shred it as I walk into the room. So I know where I am and where I plan to go and, the success outcomes for the client. Because that's honestly what I say is tell me what you want at the end of the, hour, day, half a day, 2 days. If you're walking out of the room going, nailed it, we got exactly what we needed. As long as I understand that, we will get there. The
All right.
process may be very different, but we
Yeah.
will get there.
Okay. So here's the big question then. I like it, but do you use a handout when you give a presentation, even a
No,
keynote? Ah,
no,
that's
I
why.
give it
That's why you're so
after.
free. That's why
Yeah.
you're so
And I
free.
and I give it after as well.
Okay.
So, if it was scripted or tr like I do board governance effectiveness training, it truly is training. They'll get a workbook.
Right.
And the caveat comes with there might be stuff in there I say, there might not be stuff in there I say.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of the core knowledge that I've committed to bring to you. Again, the pathway of how we're going to be together today might be different.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's what binds a lot of we professional speakers up a little bit because when we have a handout and we have PowerPoint slides, and don't worry, I'm not talking about 50 PowerPoint slides, but well, let's just call it 10 for 60
Yeah.
minutes, okay? We still have a rhythm that we're working on. And
Mhm.
sometimes when we lose control, when that hot air balloon goes a little too high or a little too low, you never want to hear somebody start saying, well, let's skip page 4. Just move to page 7, everybody.
No.
Right? So I
Yeah.
like that. I had a feeling when I asked you about the handout, I thought, I'll bet that's not in their hands because without it, you're much more free to kind of,
Mhm.
pick up the pace without letting people know you're picking up the pace and
Yeah.
getting to the finish line without people feeling haste. But I think too many PowerPoint slides, which will kill any presentation, and a handout might make this a little more challenging.
Mhm. Yeah. I have a lot of slides.
Hmm.
And again, because it's sometimes, especially for keynotes, they'll say, can you please send your slide deck in advance? And I'm like, I mean, I can, but there might be 400 slides in there and I'm going to use eight because
Right.
I don't know where I'm going to go. But when you get really good with presenter view, you can be like, I'm going to jump to slide 50 because all of a sudden this topic came up. Or my slides truly are those visual variety and visual aids, like a lot of pictures of stretching animals to take little stretch breaks. So I can go, I feel the energy dip. I'm like, everybody stand up, stretch to the sky. And I throw up a stretching chicken or something. And of course, then you get a laugh. So that's what my deck is.
Got
So
it.
when clients say, can I have your deck in advance? I'm like, it's probably not going to make a lot of sense. In fact, it might make you nervous if you saw my slide deck in advance, to be honest.
Right. Well, I actually think you also have helped everybody learn how to answer the question What happens when they ask for your slide deck? You got a great answer. You want all 400? But most of us, including me, I don't like giving up my slide deck. I don't like giving it up even if I only have 20. I've got video. I've got audio. I have my clicker. I have my way. And it only happened once, but I remember going out on a speakers bureau's job. And you don't want to screw around with the speakers bureau. When you've got a bureau booking you out, you have to nail it every time. And I went with, okay, I'll send your junior AV person my stuff. And when it didn't work, client wasn't pointing their fingers at themselves. They were saying, well, slides weren't working, audio wasn't good. I'm moving around and covering it up. But I just want my equipment. Most of us do. So you actually, I don't know if I might tell a white lie next time, go, okay, but there's 400 of them. But I got to come up with a reason to get these clients to trust us to say, really, we've got our equipment, we've got our connectors, we got everything. I am. I'm going to sound a little bit boastful, but most professional speakers know more about that AV setup than the AV team, unless it's a big show, and if we're in a big ballroom, a couple thousand people, I'll trust them in the back. They know. Not the ones that work for the Marriott Hotel necessarily.
Yes,
I love true. Marriott, by the way.
Yes, very true.
Quick question. And I'll get off this, but I haven't finished question one, by the way. But when you're trying to facilitate in a keynote, I do workshops all the time. Easy. I've got one sitting on a corner of a desk. I'm in good shape with my facilitation. But when I'm in a keynote, and I do want some conversation, any sense of percentage-wise, because I got 1 hour content. I'm not trying to load it up, but it's a dance going on. What percentage of time should I be facilitator? Would you like to see a Rob Jollis facilitate an hour keynote?
In terms of audience engagement, like direct
yes. In terms of me stop going blah, 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 blah.
So interestingly enough, this blends into when I talk about productivity and meeting management and time management with teams. I call it a buffer up. However long I think something's going to take, I buffer it 30% up. Then I'm never surprised. So it allows a little bit of relaxation and nuance. It's okay if you're like, okay, I'm going to hear from 3 people, and you hear from 3, and then all of a sudden 2 more put up their hands. So now I'm in a choice. Do I let it derail my agenda, or do I engage with my audience? If I've buffered up 30%, I have that flexibility to engage. And again, clarity, I'll say, I'm going to hear from 1 more, and then I'm going to move us forward. So they know. So no one ever feels like, oh, well, she didn't answer me when, we said 2 other ones. So buffer up 30%. I would probably say, I think 30 to 40%. And sometimes it's tidbit audience engagement. Sometimes it's a Slido poll. Sometimes it's a raise your hand. Sometimes it's a, yell out words. So you vary that too. And that's in my design. So if I'm like, I got to make this point, every 5 minutes, I think is audience engagement. Online, every 3. They have to do something. They have to see something different, be asked to input something, do a poll, raise their hand, do something. So in person, every 5 minutes, online, every 3 is my role.
Karen, you're my kind of guest. I thought you were going to give me, well, it depends. And, listen, we're not saying that we're tattooing that on our arm, but that gives me a measurement and at least an idea, and I want to be in the ballpark of that, so I appreciate that. You also slid in a really nice move. I just don't want people to miss it. I am right alongside you with when you're asking for questions and you have sort of multiple questions, how you pull out of that without it being awkward. So I'm with you. I always like, okay, I got that one. You're on deck, and then we'll hold. But I'm trying to. That on deck means I have a question after the question, but I don't have a question after the question after the question, and it lets people ease out because sometimes people are timid. They finally get their hand up, and the person says, "Yeah, no more questions now. I got to get moving." It's like, well, that's the last time I'll do that. So there's a real sensitivity to how we handle that kind of pulling back from questions. So first, congratulations if we're getting a ton of questions, but we have to learn how to manage that too. You gave us a great reminder on that. Thank you.
Totally.
Really important.
And another little tip on that actually is when you know you have time, you actually phrase your question, what questions or comments do you have? When you're ready to move forward, you say, are there any other questions?
Right.
One invites explore, one invites close.
Fantastic. And I tell you, I can give you 10 reasons why I'm not a huge fan of virtual. It's, welcome to our world. You better jump on the wagon.
Yeah.
But one thing I love about it is that when I'm getting a lot of questions, and I think I took this from Howard Stern, but who has what's called an after show. But from almost all virtual presentations, I will have an after show,
Love
meaning
it.
I'm not running to the airport
Yeah.
like normal. So if I don't get it here, and if you got to run, you run. But if not, I'll be here, and I'm not leaving until every question is answered. And that usually kind of calms every down. And also, we're getting the more of the introverts that don't necessarily feel comfortable with 50 people around to put up their hand. But that's the one that comes up at the end of the presentation. So we have to build a spot for them. Virtually, it's actually quite easy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. How about a few simple facilitation techniques? I'll go first. For instance, I'm always trying to start slowly and get it rolling. So I use what's called an overhead question, meaning can anyone early on, because I don't want to nail somebody, the one person I didn't want to nail. And my extroverts will typically put up their
Yeah.
hand. And so I'm trying to go overhead. I'm trying to go opinion, something safe early. And I'm just talking about questioning. Give me some other thoughts that you might have that to just bring people in.
Mm, I love this. So, and I'm not speaking from any of this is, a golden rule.
Oh,
And I think it's just so I've had feedback over the years on this that it makes the facilitator, me in this case, human, authentic, and safe. So honestly, something I do often is I'm transparent. Like I share my facilitation techniques when I'm doing them for people. So I actually say, what questions do you have? And if nobody moves, I will, and it allows humor too. I'll say, I'm waiting the 20 seconds. So and especially virtually, I'm like, it's even more awkward virtually because when I make wait 20 seconds, people think my screen is frozen. I'm like,
right.
no, just giving you time to think. And I'll even explain to them, I'll say, that what question technique to make it psychologically safe for people to ask questions. I tell them what I'm doing. And here's why I'm saying what. It's a technique you might want to take back. Yeah, I'll share, this is what I'm going to do when I need to converge us back. I'm going to wait out the 20 seconds to your point to keep it safe for people. Extroverts will talk right from the get-go. The person at the back that's maybe a little bit more of an introversion preference, again, I make a joke out of it. I'll say, and this first question I'm asking you today is open, but be prepared as I get to know you better and we get more comfortable. I will call you by name maybe later in the day, but I'm going to let you hide for now. And people laugh.
Yeah.
And then but then they're sort of mentally preparing that, if Karen hasn't heard from me in a group of, 10, 15, 20 by 3 o'clock, I may look to them and say, particular by name, what comments do you have? We haven't heard your voice yet today.
Yeah.
But they have a pre-warning that that might happen.
Yeah, love that. Actually, and let's put a pin in that. It's not just questions. When in school, and I've kind of railed against our schools occasionally, it is kind of we're not going to tell you anything. I'm not telling you where the information's coming from, whether you're getting a quiz, nothing. You try that with adults, it doesn't work so well. So really in that
Bingo.
opening up, not just what we're going to talk about, but how we're going to talk about it and what I expect from you while we're doing this, meaning I'm going to ask questions. If I don't hear from you, I'll give you some time, but I'll come in the end. I know where you are. In other words, we lay it out early. And that way, nobody's surprised when you go ahead and do that. Actually, we
Bingo.
call that a callback. We call it back and say, "Remember earlier when I said?" So we, and I'll throw one more technique that I use. It might be very Rob Jollis oriented, but I tell you, it works well for me. When I don't get those questions, and you got guts, I got to tell you, 20 seconds is good because 20 seconds on stage feels like about a minute and a half.
And I tell them that.
Yeah, yeah. It's slow down. I actually usually say I'll wait. I will count with my fingers behind my back because my brain doesn't count. It's flying. But then I say, all right, you know what? I got a question for me. and I will physically
Mhm.
turn my shoulders and pretend that I'm actually asking me a question. Go, Rob, you're supposed to know so much about such and such. How do we work with this? And then I'll turn my shoulders the other way and answer it. It generally gets a couple laughs. It kind of
I
breaks
love
the
that.
ice, and
Yeah.
then somebody will usually go, "Yeah, do I got more I can ask me, but how about you?" And so we sort of just lightened up the moment. But it's a technique I
Yeah.
sort of stumbled into, and
I'm gonna try that out. I like that.
you're going to love that. Remember, you got to turn your shoulders. You got
Yeah.
to really simulate physically that you're actually talking to you. And
Mhm.
then it works nicely. All right. Let's see. How about a few other simple facilitation techniques? Maybe let's go back to keynote. I think workshop's easy.
Keynote. Okay.
Let's face it. You got. I usually cap them at 20. So we're
Yeah.
between 10 and 20 people. We got a pit we're walking around in. It's easy. But now we won't make it too big. Let's just make it 100 in the audience.
100. Okay.
I'll go first because I like to take the good ones. I mean, why don't I go first? But I do love coming off that stage and getting a little bit into that audience. I think, again, psychologically, I become a little bit more part of the audience as opposed to speaking to the audience. But again, that's me being physical. What about you?
I love that you open with that because I was just about to say, if they ask, I don't even want a stage, as long
Right.
as I can be seen, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think so. Even so, a little bit of a tag off on that body position in the room.
Hmm.
Often, because I always ask for either a handheld or obviously a lapel mic if I'm mic'd, I'll go to the back of the room and actually stand there, especially if I'm asking for questions or if I notice there's pockets of the room that are over contributing or under, I will physically position my body to that side of the stage or front of the room if you're just at the front of the room. Um, what else do I do for now? So what is the realm? Do we want people to contribute or do we want them to close or what is the
That's a
con
great question, because it is a keynote. I just want them to feel comfortable that if they have something to say or add or ask, that it's safe for them. That's sort of what I'm looking for because I'm a little top heavy on my keynotes. I'm really probably about 80-20 on a good day of my keynotes of getting of really, and now I'll involve them. I'm going with the Karen rule. It says it's not just questions. I've got my percentage will go up if you let me include the case study they're looking at, or the poll they may be participating, or the rhetorical questions they're getting. But in actual conversation, I'm lucky if I'm at 20%.
Mm.
That's me.
Yeah, and I think in Keynote, I think that's reasonable because and often clients hire you. Keynote is a bit of an expert one-to-many,
Yeah.
just by design, and a lot of clients that reasonably so is what they're looking for. You have 45 minutes, you have expertise we want, so give it to us. So to your point, workshops are a bit different. You do have a luxury of more time and a looser schedule. And so why not have them have a partner conversation for 60 seconds?
Yeah.
Talk to each other. Again, I love the stand sit. Stand if you think this, sit down, stand if you think that. I call them popcorn report outs. I'm not going to hear from everybody. Or sometimes I'll say, I'm looking for meerkat comments, like stand up, quick thought, sit down. And so then you can use it later if people are reticent to participate and you want them to. If you just say, where are my meerkats at? They usually laugh because they're all picturing the little meerkat sit down, stand up, right? And that's
Right. Right.
and it makes it very clear you're not going to get 2 minutes for a dissertation,
Yeah.
but in a safe way and in a funny, humorous, lighthearted way. So people aren't going to stand up and talk for 5 minutes because you very clearly said it's a meerkat. You have deep, and then get off. So again, it's sort of finding those ways of letting them know what's going to happen. Often I start with the definition of partnership, which is being jointly committed to the success of the project we're in together. And again, the joke is we're jointly committed to finishing this keynote on time. So I'm not going to ask for participation. And at the end of the day, we're in partnership to complete on time with it bringing value to you. And that's not just up to me as facilitator, that's up to you as participants.
Yeah, that's what we call a whiff 'em. That's what's in it for
Yeah,
them, right? Uh,
exactly.
I'll give you one other idea that I used to run with. I actually ran out of them. And I'm really just helping the next speaker with this, but for a lot of times with keynotes, and it's not necessarily in terms of questions, but it's those courageous people that do come forward. I like the fact you flipped the room, you went to the back. I've done that a few times. It annoys the people in the back, but you know what? So what?
That's
It's
okay.
right. Yeah. I'm trying to take care of that decision maker in the corner, and he wants everybody or she wants everybody spoken to. But I actually got myself 1,000 pens, and on those pens, because I needed something I could carry in bulk, and on those pens, it had a picture of me leaping. It looks like I'm flying, and ties being moved. And on it, it says, "I saw the show from the front row." And at the end of the presentation, I said, thank you and appreciate this, and I hope you do that. And I want to say one more thing to you in the front row who came up here, who knew that you better be engaged because you're going to get eyeballs on you. I want to say thank you, and I want to encourage the rest of you to come on forward because you never know. Maybe you win something. And they all just got themselves a pen. It puts a nice little finishing touch on, but it also I'm trying to deliver the message of, come on, come on, come on in. If not for me, for the next guy.
I love that.
It's worked out. I won't go into too much detail about it. I kind of went with a cheap vendor and my head was half cut off, but that's another story. uh, all right. One and a half more questions. I'll let you go. Tell me something that maybe we're doing unintentionally wrong. I remember the first time I ever got filmed, I was probably 25. I had my arms folded. I swear I was cold, but I got really nailed by on video and everything of, Rob, that looks like a very closed nonverbal that you're sending out there. What are some other things, maybe unintentionally, where we want facilitation, but we're not really sending the right signal?
So this is more of facilitation, not keynote.
Yeah.
Because I think keynote, the expectation is you know your script. You're not like you don't have cue cards and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, when we're facilitating, we will have, our binder. And what I see happen a lot, guilty as well. And now I'll actually tell them when I do it. So I call myself out again, is, the second you say, so what questions do you have or comments, and people start to respond, you're like, now's my opportunity for me to go take a quick look at my notes, make sure I'm in place. So you're not actually with your audience anymore. You're like, they're talking, I can disengage and do something else. No, that is the exact moment where I see a lot of facilitators look down at their binder. What page am I on?
Right.
And you are not engaged. So if I find myself doing it, I actually share what I did
Right.
to them. I say, you know what? You didn't have my full attention. I want to offer my apology. And how many times we do this when we're out with teams?
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're like, oh. And I'm like, so when I disengage? And I'm like, yeah. And the joke about it is we all know when someone does it, yet we just think we're better actors. Like, why do I think I can do it better? That I can, stare at the camera and type that email one letter at a time while trying to convince you that I'm really listening. I'm not, and it's clear.
It's like texting and driving. You swear that you're the only person on the planet that can pull it off. I
Right.
hear and that goes for even looking at your watch. For years, although it finally broke on I had a clicker from my slides that actually had a little clock on it. It was
Oh,
built into a little digital,
interesting.
and so I could just sort of pick it up and get a sense of time. But the moment we look at our wrist, 2/3 of your audience comes out of the show.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm sitting in a chair and my car and got to pick up the kid and the show. They left the show, so
Yeah.
it's little things like that we really have to be smooth
Hmm.
on. So, one
Yeah.
thing you do that's pretty courageous, you call yourself out a lot on it. I'm more of a master of disguises, unless I think it's going to serve the audience.
Well, ditto,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Always.
And then I'll
Always
tell them
as
about
a
what's going
service
on.
to them.
But I never want the audience to feel sorry for me or anything like that.
No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. It's where I find it is it strays into self-deprecating humor.
Hmm.
So A, it's not to feel sorry for me. It adds humor, and it the only time I share it is when there's a lesson in there that they could then apply in their world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can guarantee I make 100 other mistakes that I don't tell them about
Yeah.
because I make them all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the other one is in terms of where you said around clickers is to, and I know, we're talking as professional to professionals, so this like would never happen in your world. Uh, I think, it's when you're nervous, you click a pen, you take a cap back and forth off your marker, or you just fiddle with them in your hands. Like, and you do it unconsciously. So a golden rule I have, like if I chart something, put everything down. I do not carry anything around my hands because especially if you're a bit nervous, you're gonna be fiddling with it. Clingy jewelry, like a bunch of clingy bracelets that will make noise, like anything that's gonna distract the audience, I try to avoid.
Yeah. Well, as they say, you've said it all. I think it's really tricky, this conversation that we're having, because it's ironically more natural to just talk, which is the part that many people get anxious about, but they're so obsessing on what they're going to say. They forget that, there's a real skill and agility to just let others talk. But I will tell you that even the seasoned guys like me, occasionally we get a little bit talk heavy. One last thing that you said, and I just want to mention it. The self-deprecating humor. I would say that once in my career, I went through what I thought was a slump and couldn't figure it out. And when I finally flew, I was a Xerox guy. I flew another Xerox instructor out. Guy said to me, and he was right on target. He said, you tell a lot of stories, and none of them are about you making a mistake. None of them are about you missing a point. We got to balance that out a little bit. I don't want to just tell you, what a crappy presenter I am, but I need to tell you, I skin my knees and bump my head too occasionally, and that really bonds us with an audience. Again, I don't think it's as instinctive as we need it to be to just try and balance the stories that you're telling out, because that's what the audience can really connect to.
Yeah. An important point, Rob, I think, because if it was all self-deprecating humor or all
Yeah.
errors, be careful because they'll start to believe the stories. You are there to be credible
Yeah.
and to provide competence in your topic area as well. So, building trust is character and competence, and I think you need to bring both.
Bingo. Karen comes to us from Canada today. So how do people get a hold of you up in the Great White North?
It is the Great White North today, that's for sure. It's getting chilly. So our main website is www.eqdevgroup.com. My subdivision, KMH Strategy, is www.kmhstrategy.com. And I can be reached at Karen@eqdevgroup.com anytime, or Karen Bowen on LinkedIn.
Yep. And that's how we connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, loved it. Needed a good facilitator in here and got one today. So thank you, really, and thanks for letting me weigh in on my trials and tribulations of trying to be a good facilitator. But really, just a pleasure meeting you, and grateful we had the opportunity to talk.
Ditto, Rob. Grateful, and I took a couple of gems away from you as well, so I'm appreciative.
Good. We'll swap them out after the show ends, folks. We'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.